Centurion Research Solutions webinar about business development for line managers. I'm your host, Rich Thielen, General Manager here at Centurion. I appreciate everyone joining us for what will be an information-packed session. A little bit of background on Centurion. We track 25,000 plus federal government opportunities across multiple vertical markets and support all four of these major industry challenges. We provide leading-edge federal market research through our Business Intelligence Now product, enabling you to find more federal opportunities earlier. We offer actionable insight through our custom research and analysis offering. Our Opportunity Assessment Now tool allows you to make fact-based bid, no-bid decisions and manage the health of your business pipeline. Finally, we offer competitive pricing analysis, training and coaching to improve your business development process. Together, these products and services were created with one thing in mind, helping you, our clients, win more business. This is our 11th webinar in Centurion's Government Contractor Knowledge webinar series. Today's host, Mike Lisagor, is founder of CelerityWorks and Centurion's business development subject matter expert. A former BD executive and program manager, Mike has been helping government contractors accelerate their revenue growth for decades and has also performed risk assessments on several major GSA projects. We are recording today's event. An on-demand copy, as well as a copy of the slides, will be available tomorrow on Centurion's website. Finally, in consideration of your busy schedules, we'll be continuing this discussion on our company blog right after the conclusion of today's webinar. So without further ado, Mike, take it away.
Thank you, Rich, and the hundreds of you who have taken time out of your busy schedules to join us today. Your company probably commits significant resources to the identification and capture of new business. And this is as it should be, especially in this highly competitive market. But of equal importance is the need to ensure that you hang on to and expand every piece of existing business. This means outstanding project performance and customer relations. This diagram describes the 5 levels of the capability maturity model for business development. Unfortunately, a majority of companies operate at only level 1 or 2. So even if operations strongly supports business development, the lack of an established BD culture and process results in reactive bidding and unpredictable BD results. So executives in charge should make a concerted effort to develop a strong business development culture. Otherwise, line manager efforts to grow business will be greatly inhibited. Someone in the organization has to have the responsibility and authority to ensure the organization adheres to the BD process. Many small businesses have managed to grow without an established BD process or culture. In these cases, it's the owner that needs to embrace the change necessary to take his company or her company to the next level of growth. Just one more thought about process. The complexity of your BD process should correspond to the size and sophistication of your services. However, some degree of a process is critical to maintaining a consistent growth curve. This is a very simplified government BD process diagram that I have shared in previous webinars. As you can see, there are 5 phases and 5 key review and approval milestones or events. The lead capture review might only be necessary for more complex bids. We all know that growing federal business has become increasingly difficult. When the market gets tight, the ability to retain and expand business within current clients is even more critical. And this means a more dominant BD role for line managers, both in terms of career advancement and company success. Now, unfortunately, a lot of project managers have a negative response to business development, and especially the word sell. Depending on their previous experience with salespeople, this can range from a mild aversion to outright repulsion. They also can't imagine themselves having the confidence or even the interest to do business development. That's not why they became technical or management experts. And by the way, please don't hire this guy to do your federal sales. Project managers are often in a fishbowl. Clients observe them all the time, looking for professional conduct, reactions and behaviors, how decisions are made, and the way they deal with people. They also look to these people as trusted advisors, people whose opinions they seek out when making decisions. So it's really no longer sufficient to just get clients to buy. Managers must also help the client reduce costs, increase revenues, and improve productivity, quality, and customer satisfaction. So what does this mean for the division director or project manager or task lead who's fighting on the front lines every day to deliver a high-quality product or service under often trying circumstances? It means realizing that just staying in your comfort zone while the federal market is changing around you is not a recipe for company or, for that matter, personal career growth. Federal line managers and the companies they work for can't afford to ignore the important role engineering and operations have in growing business. It's not the word sell that is the problem, but rather how sales is done and the motive behind it. You meet someone, you listen, you ask some good questions so that you understand them well and what they are trying to accomplish. If you think there might be a way that you or your company can help them, then you offer it to them. If not, you wish them well and part graciously. When I was a program manager and then a business developer, I always tried to view sales as an opportunity to develop new relationships. In other words, make friends. People react much more positively when approached by someone who is genuinely interested in understanding what they do every day and what keeps them up at night. They don't want to be confronted by someone whose only interest is pushing their own product or service. Company managers need to understand this difference and try to overcome their reluctance to talk to their federal clients about their agency's new requirements. I have a longtime friend who claims I am the world's best salesperson because I have sold my wife an inferior product for 43 years. And while that is definitely the case, when we first met in high school, my service offering has greatly improved as I've learned to really listen to and understand her needs and not just my own. So where do you fit in? Let's take a look at some of the key elements of the sales process. Managers and subject matter experts should provide valuable, competitive, and new opportunity information that informs the organization's marketing initiatives and lead identification activities. These staff members are also responsible for capturing recompetes and identifying new requirements for project growth. For longer-term strategic bids, business development professionals rely heavily on managers and experts to lead and support capture and proposal efforts. If you haven't already, I'd recommend viewing January's Capture Manager webinar for a detailed description of the capture process and responsibilities. Much of today's contracting support is provided through large multi-agency or single-agency contract vehicles with multiple contractors. Companies rely on operational engineering staff both to identify new task orders and to develop the technical and management approach necessary to win them. The project manager should cross-company sell capabilities to existing clients and capture follow-on, recompete, and new business. Any line manager might function as an opportunity lead or capture manager. Subject matter experts are often recruited from the project. They provide technical and management input to the capture and proposal development process. Line managers are often proposal managers for an opportunity. They also write proposal sections, resumes, and project summaries. Depending on the size of the company, a project manager may also be responsible for developing the pricing strategy, the cost estimate, or the cost proposal. So how can you, as a project manager, identify new opportunities? In addition to sources of new business leads that I discussed in previous webinars, the best business leads also often come from relationships with existing clients. A good relationship with a client can mean they'll push opportunities to you that typically aren't advertised. This information can be uncovered by project managers, account managers, or even company executives. This should be an integral part of a strong business growth culture. Satisfied clients will sometimes refer you to their counterparts within their own agency or even at other agencies. Project managers and executives can take advantage of their existing client relationships to solicit introductions. When doing BD training in person with line managers, I usually ask for a show of hands from anyone who knows key government staff not directly involved in their own project. Unfortunately, there are few raised hands. This is a major area of untapped business opportunities for most companies, and project staff are the key to unlocking these leads. I would encourage you to watch the teaming and subcontracting webinar on Centurion's Knowledge Center. One aspect of teaming that I didn't cover in detail was the importance of leveraging existing teaming relationships. Setting aside companies you wouldn't want to do business with again, the other partners are a source of new business leads. And once a contract is signed, it is usually the project manager who assumes the key relationship with these companies. Effective PMs keep their ears open for other business opportunities. One of your responsibilities is to help gather the competitive information necessary to formulate a strategy and assemble a winning team that will beat the others. This slide lists several sources of competitive information that you can download later. A few of these are research databases, agency website listings of contractors, budget forecasts, freedom of information requests, trade magazines, and outside consultants. Searching for already awarded contracts in Centurion's Federal Market Research Database, BI Now, is an excellent way to gather competitive data. If possible, set aside a half hour each week to gather information about your agency and the other contractors that work there. I strongly recommend that every professional make consistent efforts to expand their network, both inside and outside the company. This will pay huge dividends professionally and is one of the best ways for you to support business development. Meet with your current clients or walk down the hall and meet with a different agency manager and ask how the agency runs a procurement. Also, if possible, find out what the stakeholder and evaluator's concerns are and some background on the likely selection official for specific opportunities. I have to admit, there were times as a busy project manager that a year or two would go by without me meeting any of the government staff members in the offices on either side of my client. Yet there they sat as untapped sources of new business. And while federal managers are reluctant to entertain cold calls, they will usually respond to a friendly visit to introduce yourself. But first do your homework so you have some understanding of their role in the organization. You can also gain information in introductions from outside by referral from other government contacts, through agency small business offices, and by participating in industry association activities that involve government managers. These include the Industry Advisory Council, AFIRM, and FCA. You can also invite potential government buyers to a free workshop or seminar. I'd encourage you to be more active in social media forums like govloop.org and LinkedIn groups. Where possible, either before you meet an agency manager or subject matter expert or during your discussions, try to find out who are the decision makers. What are the client's needs? Does the client have sufficient budget to address the problems identified? When will the decision makers be able to make a decision to buy? Are there any incumbents? And if so, how are they performing? Find common interests. Market your personal qualities. Be a good listener. And let your enthusiasm show. Be positive. Be 5 minutes early, but no more. First impressions are often lasting. And don't immediately pass out sales materials when you want the customer to focus on you. But if you have sales materials, interact with these sales tools wherever possible. Focus sales presentations on their needs. And don't fear rejection. Remember, nothing ventured, nothing gained. When unsure, refuse to give an answer. Instead, answer questions with a question. For instance, if the client asks, "What is your delivery time?" you can answer, "What delivery time do you need?" If the prospect shows an interest, you should ask, "What steps do we need to take to move forward with the solutions we've just discussed?" But avoid loaded terms like legal, binding, final, and closing. And don't wait for, "Your price is too high. I want to think about it. I have to ask my supervisor, my boss, my spouse, my spiritual advisor." Instead, encourage the customer to voice her objections. The question for you to think about is what the customer is really worried about. For instance, if the price is too high, then their real concern is that the benefit doesn't justify the cost. This is your opportunity to talk about your solution or service value, how you can help him meet his challenge in a unique way. Being risk adverse, especially with today's budget tightening, customers might say they need more time to think about it. This can be interpreted in two ways. She might fear making a wrong career or project crippling decision. On the other hand, many people, being Myers-Briggs introverts, might just need some time to adequately absorb the information you've provided. In the first case, you can ask them if there are any specific questions or concerns. In the second, you should offer to follow up with the discussion in a few days. A customer might want to get quotes from other vendors. In this case, you should try to get her to identify the functions she might feel your solution is lacking. I used to hate it when a customer would say, "I'm all set with my current contractor." However, this is actually better to find out at the beginning. Now the challenge is obvious. You need to explain how your company is better in terms of performance, unique functions, price, timeliness, or quality. It's difficult to be in the federal market for several years without having a single performance issue. And of course, that one problem always seems to be cruelly transported to the very individual you are talking to. It's like negative synchronicity. If you're aware of your company's situation and can explain how quickly and efficiently your company resolved the issue and the changes that were made to make sure it didn't happen again, then you can turn this negative to a positive. If the poor past performance is a mystery to you, then thank the customer for the feedback and use it as an opportunity to follow up with the customer with the facts about that situation. While the customer who has to talk to their supervisor could be using this as an excuse to get rid of you, they just might not be the decision maker. But since some decision makers really value the input of their subordinates, you should see if you can brief their supervisor or ask for an explanation of how the decision whether to acquire your services is made. Every manager should develop the skills necessary to make a presentation to a group of people. Some key pointers include: meet the individuals either before the meeting starts or ask the attendees to introduce themselves and their role in the organization. Determine who the group's leader is. Ask for an explanation of the decision-making process. Take control of the meeting. Present your services without reading your slides. Stop periodically to ask if there are any questions. Win over one person at a time. If you make a corporate overview pitch, either one-on-one or to a group, make it as brief as practical. Focus on their needs, not on your capabilities. If they don't show interest, change the subject before you lose them. Watch their body language. They'll let you know how you're doing. And if you detect snoring, change the subject. Through mutual exploration, you can usually find solutions such as those shown here that exactly meet their needs. If not, then don't do business and part friends instead of trying to fulfill unknown expectations and losing the relationship forever. Set a follow-up agenda with the client. Make a to-do list with their help. Assure them you will follow up and get back to them by a certain time. Send an email note or make a phone call, and keep the prospect informed. Of course, the best way to win new business is to do an outstanding job performing on existing contracts. Here is a partial list of many of the key elements of a successful project. These items are included in the Line Manager Business Development and Project Execution Checklist that I will be emailing to all attendees later today, since we only went a few over the advertised limit. Line managers should help BD gather the marketing intelligence necessary to inform a decision whether to commit more significant resources to capturing the business. These are several of the questions that need to be answered during the BD phase. Is the program viable? Is the funding stable? What are the client's needs? What are the client's hot buttons? Can you be a legitimate competitor for the task? Who are the incumbents, and how are they doing? At what price did they win last time? Who are the perceived top contenders, the likely competitors? Who has the most qualified project manager? Is she dissatisfied at her current employer? Are there important, well-connected key subject matter experts? Who are the likely evaluators? Which of these questions can you answer? And does your company have a process for gathering this data? This is an opportunity assessment list I presented in January's Capture Management webinar. Project managers have a significant role to play in gathering data to help capture managers build recompete or follow-on business win strategies, and to accurately assess your company's strengths and weaknesses and win probability. Line managers should understand the reasons companies form a team to bid on a specific competition. Some of these are to add a large, more credible company or missing capabilities, to fill a key personnel requirement, to take a competitor off the street, to satisfy a client's stated or unstated preference for the involvement of an incumbent company or local presence, as part of a broader strategic teaming arrangement, and finally, to fulfill a socio-economic status requirement, either for the prime contractor or as a percentage of the contract. Once you have successfully kicked off your project, you should be on the lookout for additional tasking with your existing client. Also talk to other key clients about their project requirements and whether they might be added to your contract or competed as a task order on your contract vehicle. And remember, it's much less costly to cross-sell other company capabilities and solutions to existing customers than to new ones. The other major business activity every project manager needs to be aware of is the need to perform early recompete capture activities. Of course, maintaining customer satisfaction is a major element of winning a recompete. But waiting until the last minute to prepare and execute a capture plan and prepare to write a winning proposal is a sure recipe for disaster. There's no room for obstinance during the proposal process. The work project staff tasks and their credentials often need to be restated in different ways to be compliant with the requirements of a new business opportunity. Line managers need to be flexible and accommodate this proposal need and be creative in helping to restate their capabilities in honest terms that correspond to the request for proposal requirements. Winning recompete contracts involves understanding the client's acquisition strategy and the potential competition. You'll need to know which companies are teaming together along with their respective strengths and weaknesses. Additionally, as the incumbent, it is imperative that you correct any weaknesses prior to the acquisition start process. At least several months before your contract is to be recompeted, you should define and implement a winning capture strategy. Be a champion in your company for necessary capture and proposal resources. Every recompete should have some level of capture plan. This process can be greatly enhanced and facilitated by using Centurion's Opportunity Assessment Now analytic tool. I always tried to approach recompetes as if my company wasn't the incumbent. In other words, what would it take to beat us? And what could we be doing to mitigate these weaknesses? Some key capture positioning questions you should consider are: is it time to replace your PM? Does the client like him or her? Do you still have the right subcontractors to win the recompete? Are there any weaknesses that need to be corrected or process improvements that could be implemented? Can you make these changes prior to the proposal period? And what are your key themes and discriminators? Too often, project managers assume that because the client is satisfied with the contractor's performance, they will get higher proposal scores. However, this assumes that your key clients are actually on the proposal evaluation team, which is not always the case. Make sure you describe the features and benefits of your technical approach, even if your client knows this already. You need to give them the information they need to be able to give you a higher proposal evaluation score. Make sure to describe the management approach, including staffing, organization, and task management. Don't take anything for granted. It all needs to be in the proposal, even though the client already knows this information. Try to find a place in your proposal to include a management, risk assessment, and mitigation discussion to demonstrate your understanding of the job. Also, consider whether you need to be more aggressive in the pricing of your offer. Sometimes this means replacing some personnel and hiring more junior staff, except for key personnel the client loves. You can't just assume the client will pay a premium to keep you. So try to determine what this difference is. Centurion's pricing experts can help you perform this analysis. Finally, avoid overconfidence. Complacent contractors usually lose their recompetes to hungrier competitors. In these highly competitive times, more and more companies are relying on Centurion's products and services to enhance every phase of their business development process. I hope you can join us for our next Government Contractor Knowledge Webinar on Tuesday, May 21st, when, with the support of our pricing expert, Al Freer, I'll be talking about the fundamentals of competitive pricing. The first 300 people to register will receive a competitive pricing checklist. Feel free to email one of the individuals shown on this slide for further information. I'll be sending out an email tomorrow morning to all attendees with links to today's slides, a recording of this session, the project manager checklist, and the registration link for the next webinar. Based on today's excellent attendance, I'd again recommend registering early for the next webinar to guarantee your virtual seat. I'll leave this slide up for the next 5 minutes. And until May 21st, I thank you for your attention and wish you happy hunting.
Mike, thank you very much. What an information-packed session you put together today. Really appreciate it. And thank you to everybody that attended the webinar. Really appreciate your time today. As Mike mentioned, he'll leave the slide up. You can join us on the blog if you have any questions. Thank you again for attending today.